The big question is Jeremy Swayman. I have your article up here on the Athletic. What are you hearing about Jeremy Swayman and his contract?
Well, as of now, still unsigned. So as camp begins today, there's nothing on ice today, but I guess technically he is withholding services if he's not at Warrior Ice Arena today. For the start of camp, everything starts tomorrow. So where do we stand? Well, it looks like there is still a difference of opinion in terms of what he wants, which appears to be salary, as most employees have in mind, and then the Bruins in terms of term. They want to lock this guy up for a long time, but to do so would take big money. So there's the disagreement. As for a solution, we'll see. Look, it serves both parties not well to be stubborn. The team doesn't want to go in with Korpisalo and Brandon Bussey. And for Jeremy, he wants to be a number one for the first time in his career. So perhaps they'll find some way to bridge their disagreement.
Would you be surprised if the deal came out and it is something that manages to do both? It is long-term, say 8 years, and it is something north of $8 million per year. Would that shock you that it got done to that extent?
I'd be surprised. Yeah. Just because if you look at it from the team's perspective, they're not in a position, when you look at comparables, to pay him that kind of AAV. You look at the marketplace, that number is lower. So where do these things eventually land with a compromise? So perhaps the Bruins pay a little bit more than they'd like, and then Jeremy gets something close to what he would want, but then the Bruins go a little bit shorter on term. So neither party is fully satisfied in terms of an agreement. For max term and big dough at this point, I'd be surprised.
So what's the healthy compromise? And I this is a leading question because I know you have a number in mind.
4 times 7. Term, not great for the Bruins because they want to lock him up long term. So they get him in at 4 years. Then you run the risk of Jeremy saying, okay, that takes me right into unrestricted. And then my market expands to 31 other teams, and therefore the price goes up. And the numbers in terms of statistics and performance, presumably, and I think we all have seen that this guy is going to be really good. The numbers will be very good too. So he'll have that on his side. In terms of the money, that's still, I think that would place him 5th highest among goalies, without a number 1 season in the books. So pretty good. Based on a very limited, in that sense, sample size. So who knows? There's still time for Jeremy. Look, if you look at the preseason schedule, he's probably, let's say he were signed, he probably wouldn't see any action for the first 3 games. So there's that sense, but he needs reps too. So we'll see.
Okay, when we're going to hear from Sweeney later on today, would you expect them to have some kind of announcement today? Would you expect something to be happening just based on what you've heard and the way things are going? Do you think it's going to take a little bit longer?
I don't think that Don will come out he's scheduled to talk around noon. Yeah. I don't think he's going to say, hey, yeah, we've signed Jeremy to something. I think it might take some time. So again, I don't know. I'd be surprised if there's any kind of announcement today.
Flying under the radar, Fluto, is the future of the head coach, who I think if the Bruins struggled in the playoffs last year, might not have been back this year. I want to say that this is the last year of his contract. Am I wrong on that?
I believe that is correct.
So what do you think letting a head coach into the last year of his contract is never a good thing either, correct?
It's performance. This kind of skews toward an organizational decision. This was the same for the GM. I forget when Don's contract, but he was up and he didn't get his extension. I think this was probably 2 years ago by now. So that aligns. And yes, if you look at that first round against Toronto, it was one guy or the other guy. I think if we saw Jerry Keefe get let go by Toronto, I think that might have been the case had the Bruins lost that series in the first round. So yes, there is some. Again, it's performance. That's what they all say, right? And I think you look at the roster, it looks pretty good right now. There's the manager has addressed some of the issues. So we'll see. I think the coach will it will come down to performance in terms of what they decide for Jim's future.
All right. Speaking of the performance of last year, Pasternak was talking about it, and he said, "Look, no one expected us to win last year, and if you look at the playoff series we won, we beat a team that was better on paper." What do you make of that comment? Do you agree with that comment?
I don't know. Florida looked pretty good, and Toronto, hey, comes down to overtime of Game 7. So the margins, I think, are so thin that, geez, if Jeremy makes that last save against Florida against Forsling, I think it was, who scored that goal, who knows? Maybe they're the ones that are playing into May and June. So you look at this team. I think the offense is going to be one of their issues in terms of goal creation and chance production. You look at the defense; it sure looks pretty stout in terms of Zadorov coming in. I think McAvoy and Lindholm should be better. And once Jeremy signs, I think there will be an adjustment period of not having Linus there for Jeremy. That might take a few months for him to settle in as a number one. But they're big, they're hungry, they're motivated by internal forces and external forces in terms of Olympics coming up. So you have individuals who are really, really motivated to make their teams. I think they'll be competitive.
You mentioned the offense, Brad Marchand, 3 off-season procedures, but you believe anyway that he's going to be ready, if not to hit the ice tomorrow, at least ready for the first game.
Yes. Now the question is, what threshold of Brad will we see in Game 1 against Florida? Unlikely to be 100%. He made some kind of comment. This is a couple of weeks ago now, but saying, and I forget how many months he said, but basically saying it's going to be a catch-up period for him. Because what do we see of Brad when he's at 100%? Guy who's nonstop, motor is constantly running, out-competing, out-willing, out-working everybody. And he's just been limited this summer in terms of his usual training. And he is a monster in the gym. So to have any kind of limitations that way is going to set anybody back. So it's going to take some time. We won't see the Brad Marchand at the beginning, but I have no question in my mind that he will work himself up to his level. It's just a matter of when that will be.
The other question surrounding this team, Fluto, is the youth and how much they can contribute. I mean, it's very easy to forget Matt Patra, who was pretty good early, faded quickly, and then got hurt. Do the Bruins need to lean on him for anything? And Fabian Lysell will be in camp, and people have been waiting for his arrival too.
Yeah, Matt will be a big one in terms of what best serves him and the organization at the start. He's 20 now, so he can go down to Providence. Is that the best place for him to start? Perhaps, just because, okay, he was very good in camp, and we saw some stretches of him during the regular season before he had the surgery where he was very good. But we've never really seen him dominate in terms of being a go-to center professionally. So maybe that's where he belongs to start. Lysell, I think the door is wide open. We see that opening that right behind Pasternak that Jake DeBrusk used to occupy as the number 2 right wing. And now he's 21. He's coming off 2 good American League seasons. He's healthy. I think the opportunity is there for him to really kick the door down and be a NHL player for the first time in his career. But again, camp performance. If it's not him, if he's not ready, he'll be down in the American League, and they'll start. Maybe Morgan Geekie moves up to that second line right wing. They have options there, but yeah, that's it's his to lose.
Having said all that, and even with the goaltending tandem not in place like it was last season, it just feels like there's less ambiguity at the start of this season. We've gotten past the Bergeron not being here, and I think that was the biggest source of butterflies to start last year. Do you feel at least a little more confident in the stability of the club starting this season as opposed to last season?
I think we have an idea, yeah, in terms of what they'll be, in terms of style. Of course, they're going to lean heavily on David, Pastrnak, McAvoy, Swayman. Those are your three foundational pillars. But you look at kind of the infrastructure around these guys. It's going to be, if they play to their style, it's puck possession, it's in your face, it's heavy forecheck, it's controlling pace. Maybe not the quickest, most skilled team, but there's some big boys there. And I think a lot of it though hinges on, okay, what is Hampus Lindholm? He had a really good first full year in Boston, especially when McAvoy was limited at the beginning of that season. Last year he was average, to be kind. So where do we see Hampus? If he gets back to that level, that's a pretty big game affecting player on your second pair, and maybe he even plays a McAvoy at times to really give you that number one pair. And I expect Charlie to be better too. So if you get those kinds of bumps in your defense, and then you throw in Lohrei and the way that he can push the pace offensively, I think a lot of it is going to have to come from the back end in terms of dictating play, being hard to play against, but then being up the ice offensively. So again, it's going to take time for the goaltending to settle in, whether that's Swayman and whether the I don't know if it's unthinkable, but if you go in with Korpisalo and Bassi, that's going to take time too. But yes, they have a good idea of what they'll be.
All right,
Fluto Shinzawa, awesome stuff as always. Enjoy the start of camp today, and everyone read Fluto in The Athletic throughout the season as he covers the Bruins. Fluto, thank you so much.
You got it, guys. My pleasure.
thanks.
All right,
See you,
thank
Fluto.
you, the great Fluto Shinzawa. If you like that clip, check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. For more Bruins analysis and opinion, hit this playlist.